Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Robert Fuentes. I'm the president and CEO of the Enos Center for Transportation, and I want to welcome you to this Ask Me Anything webinar about Enos' recently launched Martin Wachs Memorial Centennial Essay Contest. I am joined by Karen Price. Karen is our Director of Development and Strategic Partnerships. We're just going to take a few minutes today, maybe about a half an hour, for a couple of things. We want to make sure that we provide you the context for this contest. We want you to know who it is honoring. We want you to know why Eno is doing this year. We want to provide an overview of the contest guidelines. We want to answer any questions you have. This is my first AMA style webinar, but we do have some slides we want to show you for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get into all of your questions and comments for this really exciting initiative that Eno has just recently launched. Next slide, please. And one more. So I think folks are generally familiar of who Eno is. Eno is not an acronym, it's actually someone's name. Next slide, please. Eno is named after Mr. William Phelps Eno. He founded this organization literally 100 years ago. More on that in just a second. Mr. Eno is the world's first transportation traffic engineer, planner. He set out the rules of the road. We drive on the right side of the road. Thanks to Mr. Eno, he invented the stop sign, the roundabout, and all kinds of other things. There's much more information about Mr. Eno and his legacy on our website. But as I said, he endowed the foundation 100 years ago, and today we're the only think tank, certainly in the United States, maybe in the world, that's focused exclusively on all modes of transportation. We work up and down the Federalist chain, so even though we're based here in DC, we do work with cities, states, and metropolitan areas all across the country, including the public and the private and the nonprofit sectors. So the remit for the organization is very large. We don't do all that stuff at the same time. We're trying to focus on areas where we can have the most direct relevance and impact. And as we'll see, this activity around the Centennial and around our essay contest is designed very, very specifically to focus on impact and the most relevant and salient issues that people are talking about in transportation today. Next slide, please. So for more on Enos Centenary, let me turn it over to Karen Price, who's kind of going to run through the context for why we're doing this essay contest this year. Karen?
Thanks, Rob. And so as Rob said, this year is our centennial. We turn 100 years old. We actually turned 100 years old on April 21st of this year. And we're celebrating actually for this year and for next year because it is such a big milestone and landmark for the organization. This year, and you can go to the next slide, we are being helped in planning all of the things that we are doing through a couple of different groups of supporters, friends, families, and transportation luminaries. Our co-chairs for the Centennial are Lillian Barone and Diane Wooden-Jones, and the steering committee of the Centennial provides a lot of the feedback and guidance to our planning and procedures and what we should be doing. So we wanted to take a second to thank them all for their work and their hard work, helping us refine and edit and put out this Centennial Institute and the essay contest this year. And of course, our honorary committee, who's providing guidance and support as well. So I highly encourage you to check out the website at 100years.enotrans.org to see all of the things that these folks have helped us with. But overall, I just wanted to share that the goal of the Centennial and what we're trying to accomplish here is really to celebrate the Eno community's legacy and impact for the last 100 years, but also to reflect on transportation policy and practice as it stands today, to inform Eno's future work and to inform transportation policy and practice as a whole. As Rob said, we're all about the impact. And also to provide opportunities for you guys, Eno stakeholders and supporters to engage with and support our work both on policy and in practice. So to that end, we have created this essay contest as well as a variety of other things going on, the Centennial Institute in September, leadership awards next year, and a bunch of other things. So please, if you haven't signed up for our email list or checked out the website at 100years.enotrans.org, definitely do that so that you can get involved with all the different things that are going on. I think we can go to the next slide. And so just, a little thought about Eno and where we are. As Rob says, we have been at the forefront of policy and practice in the transportation industry for 100 years. And that means different things throughout the years. So for this time, which is a very unique and interesting time in the world, we really wanted to bring our unique model of rigorous and independent research together with our high quality professional development programs. And this essay contest is part of how we can do that, right? That is bringing all of the work and the ideas and the innovation of our network to bear on some of the most tricky, hopefully, on some of the most tricky problems and opportunities in the transportation industry today. Translate ideas into action. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide, which I think is to talk more about the essay contest, specifically honoring Martin Wachs.
Yeah, thanks, Karen, very much. So we want to just take a second just to point out why we named this after Martin Wachs. People probably may know that Marty was a wonderful, a stalwart and a luminary in the field, and a really good friend of Enos. There's really nobody better for us to name this essay contest after than Dr. Wachs. Next slide, please. For those who don't know, Marty was the first ever recipient of Enos Thought Leader Award, which we gave a few years ago. It acknowledges individuals that have demonstrated huge bodies of rigorous, timely, and impactful work. And again, Marty obviously is at the top of that list. Over the years, he contributed many articles to Enos journals, our reports, our webinars, our publications. In fact, he published his first article in Enos Transportation Quarterly Journal in 1969. I think he was on the leave from the Army at the time, but he published an article focused on the impact of urban highways on growth and development within metropolitan areas. So, even back then, Marty was at his was clearly informing the field and certainly ahead of his time, and he continued to be that way all throughout his career. When he passed, he was still working on a lot of research, working on teams focused on the impact of the pandemic on revenues for transportation, particularly in California. He was focused on what this all meant for pricing schemes that what he had a lot of a huge role in. What this meant for growth and development patterns broadly. So again, throughout his career, he always remained at the forefront of the conversations that were going on in and around the country, especially everything to do with transportation planning and practice. And so, again, I just wanted to reiterate, there's really nobody better for us to name this after than Martin Wachs. So just to point that out there for you. Next slide, please. So for all the details then on the contest itself, let me turn it back over to Karen and kind of walk through exactly what this thing is and how you can contribute.
Great, thanks, Rob. So first, I'll just tell everyone there is on the sidebar, you should have a questions where you can enter questions in. Rob also put the website in the chat. So please go ahead and answer all your questions. I'm gonna run through the sort of basics of the essay contest guidelines now, and then we'll have a chance to answer your questions. Any questions that we don't get to in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll answer and put up on the website as well with the recording and the slides from this presentation. So this is a great chance. Ask anything you want, even if we don't get to it today, we will answer it one way or another. So just want to let you guys know that. Please go ahead and add some questions to that question board or chat thing. So we go to the next slide. And let's talk a little bit about the essay contest as a whole. So the theme is coming out of the crisis, a look past the pandemic. And so what we're really interested in here is, we've all had the collective experience of the COVID pandemic over the last year plus. And a lot of people have innovated and a lot of things have changed. And so what we really want is your best idea, your best recommendations for the policies, innovations, or best practices that we should be implementing as we move forward, right? We're moving from crisis into recovery. And that recovery, that new normal looks very different. So in light of that, we want you to share something that you have looked into that you recommend as a policy practice, innovation, etc. But We also want that Enos mission, Enos vision is to create, to advance a transportation system that supports economic vitality, advances social equity, and improves the quality of life for all. And so to that end, we really want these recommendations to do one of those things, support economic vitality, advance social equity, or improve the quality of life for all. And I'll just make a note here that we would typically include, for example, improving the quality of life for all, things on the environmental or emissions reduction kind of things. So that's also something that we're very interested in, even though it's not spelled out per se here, that is something that we would include under the improving quality of life for all. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about what you actually have to do to enter the contest. So there are two categories for eligibility. There are student and professional. Typically what we say is if you're a current minimum half-time student, so you're whatever your half-time is, going to school at a university, you would fit into the student category, and sort of everyone else would fit into the professional category. Half-time, or if you're a high school student, I don't know who's out there, but if you're a high school student and you think you have a really great idea, then of course you're welcome to compete as well in the student category. But typically we're thinking graduate students, undergraduate students for the students. And then length, we wanted to make this manageable, but not, sometimes it's actually harder to be brief than to go on and on. So in the style of Enos op-eds that we do a lot in Transportation Weekly, we settled on a length of 750 to 1,000 words, enough for everyone to start to say something, but not to go on. So clear, concise, writing is probably to your benefit in this case. And as I said, it is written in the style of a persuasive op-ed aimed at decision makers at the local, state, and federal level. Depends on your topic, what level might be most applicable. But again, I encourage you guys to look at op-eds and things in ETW to sort of get a sense of the style and the way that folks write op-eds in Transportation Weekly. So it's kind of in that same style. Reliable sources are required. So that does mean, there's a list on the website. You can go see that we've had, everything from academic journals to reputable news sources are welcomed. We do ask that you include those sources cited as in-text links where possible, or as footnotes where they're not online sources, they may be offline sources. So citation is required. So please pay attention to that. And again, as I said, on the website, there are more specifics about what is sort of included in reliable sources, but I'm happy to talk about that as well. And then content and judging. We'll be announcing next week, I think, our full panel of judges for both categories, but we have some great names on there. The judging panels will be transportation professionals and leaders, people who have been in the field and can, have multimodal experience, right? Because we do accept multimodal. We are the only multimodal think tank in the nation that we're aware of. So every mode is welcome, an idea in every mode is welcome. So the judges themselves are also multimodal, and all decisions of the judges are final. There's no appeals process, no Supreme Court of the essay contest. All the decisions are final. And we do ask, as I said before, that you provide a clear and concise summary, right? We do have that. If you are less than 750 words or more than 1,000, you'll be sort of kicked out immediately. So be clear and concise, and talk about both the significance and the consequences of the issue at hand. We really want to know, why is this a big deal? Why is this something that you've chosen to write about? And then discuss how your topic relates to building that transportation system that fosters economic vitality, advances social equity, and improves the quality of life for all. So again, tying it back to not just transportation for transportation's sake, but transportation to have an impact and to create better systems and a better world, really, right? Because we really believe that that's what transportation is all about. It's not just for its own sake, but it's to serve the larger, greater purposes of society. So And then also, as I said, citations are required. Please do use at least 2 or 3 reputable sources. And if you can use real world examples of where your idea or innovation has been put into practice, all the better. As again, you know, Eno is all about the impact and making sure that things are you know, scalable, replicable, and in that right, you know, using real world examples really helps with that. So we can go to the next slide. So we have some questions here. And as soon as I stop talking, there's more and more questions. So great, keep them coming. And I think unless Rob has any objections, I'll sort of ask the questions and we can both sort of answer as makes sense to that. And as I said, we will, even if we don't get to them here during this call, during this webinar, we will answer them one way or another on the website afterwards. So Rob, are you ready? Do you want to just dive into questions? All right. So Kelvin Russell, hello, has asked, if I'm a current intern at a transportation company, as well as recently accepted in grad school, can I still apply? If so, would I apply as a student or a professional? In this case, I would probably, if I were you, I would probably do as a student. I think typically when we say professional, we would say that you're employed at a full-time sort of permanent position, not I think an intern would be sort of considered temporary. So in this case, I would provide, if I were you, I would do a student. That's what I would do. I don't know, Rob, if you have anything to add to that.
Nope, that sounds right.
Yeah. I fit into both categories, student and professional. Can I submit an essay under both categories? Sure. Are you going to submit 2 different essays? Don't give us the same thing. That's boring. Do 2 different ones.
I think it's the same question as the first. If there are some people who maybe fit into more than one category, just use your best judgment of which one. As Karen said, you know, we intentionally split these out, recognizing that students are sometimes, you know, deep involved in some research that they're doing, and they have a maybe narrower field than folks who may be in the professional world and who have kind of a broader range of experience. So what we tried to do here was to split that out. Use your best judgment wherever you think. If we determine that you don't qualify for one category or another, we can make that change, but it's really up to you to see where you fit better.
What do you mean by reliable sources? So this is on the website as well, but we typically mean you can use a variety of sources, academic journals, news magazines, newspapers, reputable websites. So I don't know that you guys know what a reputable website is. If it's www.weirdthings.com/transportation facts, no, you can't use it. It's not, you know, but sort of general news sites, newspapers, you know, books, government documents, publications from other resource organizations, think tanks, I think are all acceptable. I don't know, Rob, if you have anything to add to that, but you know.
Anything that would pass muster in a student environment or in your professional careers. You know, really what the point is here, we want to make if there are statistics and there are things that you just need to have backed up, that this is what this is for, is to make sure that we back up the facts and the things that are in here. And connected to the next one, is there a word limit on the references? No, those do not count as part of the word limit. But again, the references include those in line, as Karen was saying, as hyperlinks.
Yeah, unless they're offline. If you don't have a link for them, then that's one thing. But we do prefer the links if we can get the links. How are you managing conflict of interest if that comes up between interns and judges? Without knowing who the judges are, seems possible that interns could definitely know or even work with one or more judges. Great question. So we're actually doing a blind judging process. So while we at Eno, a couple of us will know who the entrants are, the judges will only have numbers associated with the essays that they are judging, so they won't know whose essays they are. So I think that's I hope that helps, but that's how we're doing it. That's also to help manage issues of bias, unconscious bias, and things like that as well. So we just thought it was best to have a blind judging process. So the judges will be reading them, but based on a number, and won't have them associated with a name.
And there are multiple judges. We do expect to have more than one set of eyeballs on all of these.
How many submissions are you expecting? Well, you know what, Sophia, I do not know. That is a question that keeps me up at night on both extremes, with none and with a lot. But we've never done anything like this to my knowledge, Rob, I don't think. And so we're not sure.
Several years,
Not
yes.
sure.
But judging from the interest we've received so far, we expect a healthy number, but it's hard to pin it down very precisely.
Yeah, I don't think we're in danger of having too few at this point, which I'm excited about. So are submissions for a single writer author, or would it be acceptable to have 2 or more authors collaborate to write the essay? Interesting question. Haven't thought about this one. Rob, do you have any thoughts?
Why don't we talk about that and update the website on that? That's a really good question. Something that I think we've thought about, but I don't think we've nailed down the answer for that. So why don't you give us the time to update? We'll update the guidelines for that.
Yes, good answer. I was like, we haven't talked about that. We should talk about that. So we'll do that. If you are a transportation professional and a part-time graduate student, can you apply as a student? Again, as Rob said, you use your best judgment. You should apply. You can, as long as you're at least a part-time graduate, you can apply, and you should use your best judgment as to which category suits you best. Does being published elsewhere make you ineligible? Is it okay to submit the essay as an op-ed to another publication? Rob, I feel like that's another one we may have to talk about and answer a little bit later.
We need original content to submit to us. What you do with it afterwards, we do want to publish some of these in Transportation Weekly. We'll work with the authors on those, especially the ones who win. If they're not accepted, then we turn them back over to you, and you can do whatever you want with them. But we do expect there to be original work submitted to us.
Right. Right. So I guess when I was maybe reading this a little different, like if you've published something about a project somewhere else, that's fine. But the article, the op-ed that you're writing here should be original. Even if you're talking about something that you've written something similar before, but this should be original to this is what we're saying, right, Rob?
Indeed.
Okay. Can I include an exhibit, like a map that the essay describes related projects? Yes, I think that an exhibit with illustration, exhibit, table would be fine. Specific font or spacing requirements for the essay? No, there are no specific font or spacing requirements for the essay, although there are requirements for how you name your file. So please do pay close attention to that so that we can be sure that we're connecting everybody and keeping track of everything correctly. So do pay attention to the naming requirements. What is the deadline for essay submission? Excellent question. The deadline for essay submission, I have to look it up myself so I don't give you the wrong date, is Thursday, August the 20th. And we will be announcing the winners on by Monday, December 13th, just so everyone knows.
Do you want to bundle a couple of these questions in here about that?
There's a lot of questions. They keep coming in, Ron, so I'll let you bundle a couple.
Well, let's talk about what's the benefit to the submittors? So why would somebody want to be compelled to submit to us?
Why would somebody want to submit to the essay contest? Couple of reasons. I think our top 3 reasons, I'll give you top 3. One, to get published, right? Has a great network, a great platform to get published. And so, if you are ambitious, you want to be a thought leader in the transportation industry, getting published, is a good way to do that, getting the access to that platform. That's number 1. And number 2, really, because the thought leader thing is a separate issue, right? You get published, so you get the exposure to the platform, but also, you know, because of, you know, Transportation Weekly and its reputation for excellence, you can sort of set yourself up as a thought leader in transportation. And 3, of course, are the prizes. I mean, we can't forget the prizes. There are $3,000 first place prize, second place prize is $2,000, first place prize is $1,000, cash prizes for each one of those. But each one of the prize packages also comes with a membership to Enos, so you'll get ETW for the whole year, as well as all the other benefits associated with being part of Eno. And you get to come to Leadership Awards reception as a Centennial Scholar and on all that jazz. So there's some great prizes in there besides just getting published, and the cash prizes. So please do pay attention to that. And we hope that that is exciting enough to make everyone want to join and to submit something.
And I'll say, especially for younger folks, being part of this network is pretty much a big deal. I mean, we are the hub of a network of transportation scholars and practitioners all across the country, increasingly across the world. And so, kind of being part of this network, exposing your name to a lot of folks. You know, Transportation Weekly is highly read, not just by folks here in Federal Washington, but around the country. So it really the exposure, I would say, is also, you know, as to reiterate what Karen said, quite an important part of this.
Yeah, Rob, this is an interesting one. I don't know, but the essay prompts sound like they're for policy/better practices. But what if the essay was largely pointing out existing problems and their unintended consequences, rather than trying to suggest solutions that are really just speculation?
I think it's a bit of both. That's a really good question, because we talked a lot about this. There's a lot of things that we don't know are going to come out of this pandemic. You know, there's a lot of people who think they know. There's a lot of people who are speculating, you know, the way the world is going to look, and there's an awful lot of things we don't know. So we don't expect there to be specific answers to all of these questions. However, you know, the whole point of this, as Karen laid out, is that we're trying to point folks towards a new normal. What do we think things might look like, and what might be some ways that policy and practitioners might be able to respond to these changes that are happening? How should we think different about all of these things? So, you know, just a critique would be helpful and interesting. But again, think about it along the lines of the op-eds you would read in either Transportation Weekly or in other publications that really are trying to focus on a specific and tailored response to what is going on. So I think the best kind of thing would be something that does do both, that highlights the problem, critiques what's going on, and then offers specific solutions, or at least a point in the right direction towards what could be a better.
Great. Well, we have just like 3 more minutes. So there's a couple of people asking about graphics and tables and things like that. So just to sort of wrap us up on some things, I'll just say, yes, you can include graphics, and you can include tables. And I don't think that they should not count towards your word count. We typically do that. So.
And there are no citizen requirements to be met.
No citizen. Yeah, so Rob and I are both like trying to get through some of the ones that we can answer real quick. How many awards will be given? So in each category, the student and the professional category, they get a first, second, and third place prize. And so there will be a minimum of 6 awards given, but we also have some room for honorable mentions where they'll get the ETW membership and some of that stuff, as well as getting published. So that's just sort of depends on the discretion of the judges in that way. So we have some of that as well.
And you want to clarify the date for folks? That maybe something on the website that's not entirely clear.
So it is, did I get it right? I think I said like Thursday, August, whatever, but it is, it's August 20th, which is a Friday. So my bad, we'll update the website accordingly. August 20th, a Friday. And references, just so everyone knows, references are not counted in the word count. And somebody wants to know how many people are on the webinar today. About 100 people on the webinar today. And maybe that helps give people some idea of how many people are interested.
More than twice that registered. So
yeah, more than twice that registered.
We do expect folks this recording will be posted on our website, and folks will be able to review this offline as well.
Actually kind of a quick turnaround for this webinar because we only announced last week. So Yes. So I think the rest.
I'm sorry, international examples also are perfectly fine for us to talk. It doesn't have to just be domestically focused, but it is. We are a domestic think tank, and that is the aperture for our work. International examples can help inform that, but really probably not the other way around. We're probably not looking for informing things in other places. It's just not in our wheelhouse.
Great. Well, so we're just at 2:30, and we did promise this to be half an hour webinar, so we want to keep to that. But as I said, we're going to download all of these questions that you guys asked, so keep asking them. There'll also be a little survey at the end, so if something comes up and you've forgotten to ask it as we end this webinar, feel free to ask it in the survey. We're going to collect all those plus this recording and put all that on the website, and we'll send everybody who registered today a link to that once we get that done. So give us a couple days, and we'll send everyone a link to all of that.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. This is a great set of questions. Sorry we didn't get to everything, but really appreciate you all taking the time. Thank you very much, Karen, for all the information and for setting this up. And we really look forward to your submissions. Anything else on your end, Karen?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much.